Howdy y'all, and welcome back to my channel. This is A.R. Cavley, otherwise known as Aaron to my real people. Uh, and we are on the further adventures of the other worlds in these campaigns. The adventure of Gunslinger Russel Miranda. Now, the way I plan on running this campaign is I'm going to basically use the rules for the Tricube Tales solo. I'm going to each episode generate a scene, generate an adventure, and then use the Tricube Tale cards to go from scene to scene, and use the Tricube Tale rules to determine when the adventure has come to an end. The first thing you're supposed to do with any of these is you're supposed to come up with the main plot, a primary subplot, and a secondary subplot. What I'm going to do, his main goal is to hunt down the main Ghost Rider of Tahira and end that threat. But because that's such a long range goal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that constantly as the secondary subplot, so that whenever a card is drawn and it indicates something for the secondary subplot, it's going to have to do with the Ghost Rider overall quest, the overall arc of trying to find the Ghost Rider. The main plot and the primary subplot will be involving whatever adventure of the week it is. So I've typed up session 1 in a place to put the main plot and the primary subplots in there. The main plot is going to involve, as he rides towards Taunton, I'm going to decide that something in that area is going to happen. And let's see, you can't see the stuff off to the right there. Maybe I should adjust that, but all right, so it's advice and rivalry. So main plot is advice and rivalry. Currently, I just, for the main plot, or for the Kamai, I just have the basic D66 table from the solo rules built in there. I do plan on expanding that, though. And let's see what the secondary subplot is. Or the primary subplot, I mean. Attainment and abandonment. Okay, so I adjusted the browser so you guys could see my little side panel over there where the results from all my fancy little buttons show up. So Taunton is as Russell rides over the hill, as he heads down the road from Gilead, he sees Gallows Hill, or he passes Gallows Hill. This is where the more average, the low class, the less important convicts are hanged. And he's heard while he was in Gilead that they're going to stop doing the hangings in the courtyard, as some said that it was going to sully, that it made the place unclean. Well, Russell doesn't know about that, but he chats with a few of the workmen who are there repairing the gallows and making sure that the land is taken care of. He rides on towards Taunton. As he comes over the hill to Taunton, he sees it below. It's an industrial town now, He knows from his lessons that in times past, it used to be a ranching town, cattle and meat, and provided provisions. But that was long ago, before the coming of Arthur Eld. Since his time, it was turned into a production center, first for making swords and armor for Arthur's knights, and then later to make guns for his knights and what would become the gunslingers. As he looks over, he can see the smoke billowing from several ore smelting buildings and blacksmiths. He can hear the distant ring of hammer on iron and hammer on steel. It is probably the most important place to the affiliation, especially to the inner baronies, next to Gilead. As he rides down, closer approaching, he comes across someone who is going to ask for help. Now, Taunton itself is a populated city, and it's close to Gilead. It's in the inner baronies, so it's not, it's not some abandoned place. So the type of adventure, the type of scenes he's going to have with advice and rivalry, he's going to have to work out, he's going to have to act as a mediator. That will be his first mission in this campaign, is he's going to have to act as a mediator between two powerful factions in town. Let's see what those are going to be. So let's use my handy NPC generator to see who approaches Russell. Okay, so we'll say Lisa Gonzalez. See, I have these kind of combined, and I threw all the NPC tags and the mannerisms and everything in here. I don't have to use them all at the same time, but we're going to start with, let's say Lisa Hill. That sounds good. Lisa Hill, who is a doctor, and she has a teasing attitude and a distrustful or fearful demeanor. Okay, well, that makes sense, because she has somehow found herself in the middle of two powerful factions. Let's see who the other involved parties are. Oh, a cultist. That's good. Oh, and a gunslinger. How about that? All right. Let me see what I can do with those. All right. So, having considered what might be going on and using input or inspiration from the three randomly generated NPCs, here's the main plot. A woman named Diana Gomez has started a new cult, and it's becoming very popular. The local gunslinger, a man by the name of Lucas Rivera, does not trust the cult and is trying to get it disbanded, discredited, but he also cannot interrupt the important production of Taunton. And for some reason, Diana's cult is very popular. And so that is the basic idea for the main plot. That's the rivalry. And the advice is going to be from Lisa Hill, who is one of Taunton's doctors or nurse, kind of all rolled up in one. She's going to be the one to approach. The primary subplot, the attainment and abandonment, someone is going to maybe abandon their duties or their honor to gain rank or wealth or some kind of power, maybe. It might be related to the renegades. I'll develop that later as it comes on, or if it comes up, because it may never even come up with the scenes. So as Russell rides into town, very familiar with it. It's close to Gilead. He's been a gunslinger riding out for the last 2 years, so he's spent plenty of time in Taunton. He sees familiar faces in the road. It's a bustling little town. Last census says maybe about 4,000, which is good sized for even in the in-world, even in the inner baronies, the inner arc. A lot of people are covered in the dirt, in the stains of the industry of the town that they work. And as he's deciding which of the local taverns he wants to wet his whistle in to start with, Lisa Hill approaches him, walks up next to his horse. She's a pretty young woman, and Russell recognizes her from her hospital. She is wearing her typical white habit, and she looks up and says, "Why, Mr. Russel Miranda, I'm very glad to see you." "It's good to see you too, Dr. Hill. How are things?" "Well, to be honest, things have been better, and I could use the help of one of Gilead's finest gunslingers." "Well, I'm certainly at your service. What seems to be the problem?" He leads Ensign and Bear over to the rail of an eating house nearby that he's decided to stop at, and he lashes them there and turns back to Lisa. "Would you care to join me?" No, thank you. It's not the most proper place. But if we could step out of the sun into the shade." And so Russell takes her arm and escorts her up onto the porch, which is beneath an eave, and they sit at a small table there. "So tell me what disturbs you." "Well, there is one of the old women in town, Diana Gomez. I think I know the Gomez family. Yes, of that family. She has she has it in her head that she is the leader of some new cult. She's found some crazy new god and has given her powers and whatever. But it crazy and nonsensical, but so far relatively harmless. Now, up until your fellow gunslinger, Mr. Lucas, decided to take issue with Diana. Now, Diana's a bit preachy, it's true, and she certainly has some harsh words for the affiliation, Gilead, and especially your kin, your type gunslinger. But they've done nothing. And her beliefs are quite popular. She has a significant following within the workers. And Lucas knows that he can't just go and gun her down or harass her without causing a big ruckus. And he doesn't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. But it's starting to get very tense. Mostly I take care of burns and injuries from the factory or the smelters. But there's been an awful lot of knife fights. A couple bullet holes too, and I don't like dealing with bullet holes. Well, anyway, that is the crux of the problem. Diana Gomez and Lucas Rivera are at loggerheads and cannot seem to work it out. Certainly Diana's talking crazy, but she's not without points, and she has many followers. I think Lucas's attitude, even though I believe he is right, she should be dealt with. But you know how Lucas is. He's pig-headed and he's rude as a bull with a tick in his ass. And it has not helped. As soon as I heard that we had another gunslinger riding into town and that it was you, I rushed over straight away. Now I know that Lucas is technically the gunslinger den here now. But please try to talk to him and Diana. I tell you by the man Jesus, I feel a darkness coming if this can't be resolved. Would you do me a kindness and see what you can do? Well, I certainly will, Dr. Hill. And so Russell stands up, tips his hat, offers his arm to her to help her out of her seat. He helps her down the steps and gives her another tip of the hat as she scurries off into the crowd back towards her hospital. Now, of course, his first duty is to speak to Lucas, but he really wants to eat something and wet his whistle. So he hops in, gets a good meal, drops back a couple glasses of whiskey, and then heads over to the Gunslinger barracks. There he finds Lucas sitting out front, fanning himself with his hat, surrounded by the various bondsmen and deputies that work to keep Taunton safe, mostly from drunkards, but the occasional mutie who wanders in from the desert, from the forests. Russell, how are you? Well, I'm right fine, Lucas. They pass some time chit-chatting before Russell brings up what he was told by the good Dr. Hill. Well, she has the right of it. That Diana Gomez, she's dangerous, but she's got a lot of people. And not even really a lot. I mean, we could go hang them all in one day, but she has people who are important to the production here. And with the renegades growing and what has gone on with the rebellion, this is not the time to interrupt the making of weapons. I understand that. So, maybe you let me talk to him. Now, Russell, you're a good gunslinger, but you're no more charming than I am. That's true. But she's not pissed at me. Not yet. But fine. You'll find her at her rickety old shack that she's made out halfway between the oil fields to the northwest, and Taunton. It's just nothing but a rundown shanty, but she calls it her temple. Anyway, you carry on if you need to go talk to her, and we'll catch up. All right, so at this point, what we're going to do, we're going to draw our first card to make our scene, see what's going up, or what's going on. Nine of Hearts. So the Nine of Hearts is a standard crafty challenge, just like it says here. So I think generally that'll mean that he's just going to go and try to talk to her. He's going to try to convince her. He's not exactly sure what. He has no expectation that she's going to suddenly give up her newfound faith just because some other gunslinger has rode into town to tell her to stop. So as he's riding out of Taunton to the northwest, he ponders how to bring it up, because Lucas was right. He's no smooth talker either. But he can be reasonable. So he comes and he sees this place that must be her church, her temple, Diana's temple. And he pulls up. He leaves Bear at the barracks, at the sheriff's spot, and he just takes Ensign out to the place, and he lashes him. He dismounts and lashes Ensign to a nearby fence post. And as a matter of respect, he removes his hat and steps inside. Is she alone? I'm going to give it 1 die 6. The higher, the more people. Okay. So he walks in, and the building is decrepit. It has not been put together well. Either she moved into some old abandoned building, or she got the lowest bidder to build her church building, her temple building. As he approaches, he notices that the symbol above the door is kind of a strange looking eyeball, is what it looks like. And as he steps inside, he pushes the door open gently, and he can hear a woman talking, and she definitely has one of those preacher sounds to her voice, as she is sharing the gospel of her new God. And as he walks in, he steps into what would be the sanctuary of a normal church. He sees Diana Gomez on the dais, only slightly raised. Basically, it's a crate with a little podium, and there are a few people sitting around on other crates and barrels that have been gathered nearby. As she speaks, she uses strange words. He doesn't know what a lot of them mean. He understands what she's saying, but she's naming places and naming gods and things that he's never heard of, and the language that she is using doesn't sound like the high speech or the low speech. Almost like something you would hear a mutie say in their meaningless, garbled words that they try to use when they're speaking. And she stops as he walks in and sees her. See, does she recognize him? I'm going to say on a 4, 5, or 6, she knows who he is. Like I said, he's been around. Okay, so she doesn't actually know him. So he knows her, but she doesn't recognize him. He knows her because he knows the Gomez family from, being an enforcer from Gilead. Oh, please carry on. Well, I'm not sure that I want to carry on with another gunslinger hanging around my church, trying to discredit the holy words of my God. I have nothing to say about your God. I don't know anything about him, and I don't want to discredit him or anything. But I have come to speak with you. Can we talk? You can talk in front of my loyal followers, in front of the holy ones who have accepted the words. Well, I would prefer if we didn't. Really, we can just step outside. We can step outside, you say, so that you can take me away from this sanctuary, this holy place, where I'm protected from your corruption, from your violence? And of course, Russell's thinking you're not protected from any violence in here, but he resists any urge to commit violence against her because, well, she hasn't really done anything yet. And he too does not want to be the one responsible for causing a ruckus in the town. Very well. As far as your gods, I'm not here to represent any kind of church. I'm not here to represent or tell against. I don't know. But, Diana Gomez, I have heard that you've been using seditious speech against Gilead, against the affiliation. And this is not the time to be making such words, especially public, especially in front of other people, especially if you're spreading those words. I'm going to have him do a 2d6 crafty check. He's brawny. He's not smooth-tongued, but he's also not incompetent. So standard, it's going to be a 5. 0 successes. So that is going to be a failure. You are no better than that brute, Lucas. Lies come out of your mouth like shit comes out of Satan's ass. You come here trying to trick me. Trick me, well, I will tell everyone the truth. I will find a way to wash the forces of Gilead, a way to destroy them. How corrupt, how wicked. You see, brothers and sisters, how they send their men, time and time again, speaking lies. Well, Russell listens to this for a couple of minutes as she goes on and on, quoting various scriptures that he's heard, quoting from the religion of the man Jesus, and quoting poems of the Guardians of the Beam, and quoting from many sources as if she can't really decide which one she wants to curse him with the most. He makes a few other aborted attempts to get a word in edgewise. Now, he is big and he's brawny, but at this point, he's new to the situation, so he does not want to try to intimidate her. He's going to find out more details, and as her rant continues to go on and on, he finally tips his hat, puts it on his head, and rides back to Taunton. As he lashes his horse back up to the barracks, Lucas smirks and says, I can tell by the look on your face that she gave you the same load of horse shit she gave me, and that she's given to everybody. Well, I told you. There's only going to be one outcome to this, Russell. What say you that we just make her disappear? We make it a mystery. That way we can't be blamed for killing her. I don't know, maybe go dump her body in that oil patch, that oil sludge that she says that her god lives in. Russell, he looks at Lucas and says, I don't think that's a good idea yet. But he shrugs. Have you checked out that oil patch? Well, of course I have. There ain't nothing out there but the old oil rigs, a couple of them working, just enough to keep some of the machines here for making the guns and ammo running. But other than that, it's just a creepy old place. You know, there was a series of murders out there recently. Murders? Well, they were dead bodies, the workers. Most of the machines there are automated. The workers don't know much. They just gather the stuff and haul it back to town. But one day, like four of them turned up dead. Well, actually, they turned up missing. And then when the deputies went out to find them, they found their bodies mutilated. So I figure it was probably renegades. But I didn't see anything. No tracks, nothing. Well, maybe I'll go check that out tomorrow. Yeah, might as well, I reckon. Maybe I'll ride out there with you. It's been a while since I've been there. Yeah, we'll see what the mayor wants. Anyway, I guess you can hop into one of the inns if you want, or we've got empty bunks here. I think here suits me just fine. And so Russell unpacks his horse, sets him into the stable, feeds him, and one of the deputy's sons rubs him down, brushes him. And we'll call that there. This time around, I want to, if I can, try to keep it around 30 minutes. I'm not going to stick to that super hard, though, because sometimes you just got to go with the flow of the story. But I do need to mark that as a loss. Now, I would have, for his failure, maybe taken away one resolve as he was embarrassed or given that fiery tongue lashing from some holy roller. But because he's going back and he's basically going to sleep now, I'm not going to worry about taking it. It doesn't bother him that much. But he's now back at step one. He's got to come up with another plan. And I think his next plan is to go investigate the oil patch, see if he can't find out something about the god that she supposedly has. Maybe if he can prove that it's false and that she's a huckster, or that she's in cahoots with something dire and wicked, then maybe she'll lose some influence. Being as this is like I said, it's a civilized town near Gilead. I'm not wanting to turn it into some kind of big gunfight necessarily. It may, I mean, they are gunslingers, but I want to maybe guide it towards something else. Anyway, thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it. Uh, and tune in next time for the further adventures of Russel Miranda, Gunslinger. Happy gaming.